Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this little video introduction to the Advanced Course 2024. If you're new to the Advanced Course, I'm going to talk you through what it is an Advanced Course in. And if you're somebody who's been around my work for a while, you've read The Inside Out Revolution or some of my other books, you have come on the Advanced Course before, then I'm going to tell you how the 2024 version is going to be different. In a nutshell, we actually offer something on the website called the Basic Course in Living from the Inside Out. And it's free, and you can click on the link from michaelneill.org and do that course. But the basic course essentially talks about what it is that all human beings have in common. For all the things that are different about human beings, there are certain things that work the same way for everyone. We all have the same fundamental gifts, the gift of what Sid Banks called a divine mind, which is the energy and intelligence of all of life as it comes through us. Divine, or divine just means hidden, unseen consciousness, which is the gift of awareness. It's the gift that allows us to experience life via the senses. And the gift or principle of divine, hidden, unseen thought, which is the creative principle. It's what I sometimes call the constant variable, because it's the Play-Doh of the universe. It's what creates the simulation that we ultimately are all living inside. And because each of us uses the gift of thought in our own way, we're each living in a similar, in many ways, but also completely different personal reality. The advanced course is no, really. It's pointing out that these aren't just cool ideas or neat theories. They're the way we're actually made. They're the way the mind actually works, the way our reality is actually created. And it turns out that when you start to see the truth of it, it makes a fundamental difference in how you live, not because you purposefully live differently, but because different things make sense to do. So normally we do the advanced course over 3 weeks in May. And each week I have a different theme, and we meet for an hour every morning, Monday to Friday. And it's like a daily drip. I usually start with a sort of ramble, which is probably not unlike the ramble that I'm going to do today, but maybe a little less overviewy and more specific to a topic. And then I take questions, and by interacting with you, we help highlight the principles and highlight how they actually show up and work in reality. This week, this year, actually, we're doing it a little bit differently. This year, I'm doing 3 weeks in May called Mastering the Fundamentals, which is part one of the advanced course, and then 3 more weeks in July called Going Deeper, where we'll go deeper into the understanding, into your understanding, so that it becomes more real for you. It becomes more of a reality and less of a cool set of ideas and theories. Now, you're welcome to do either part on its own, but I've designed it so you'll get the most out of it by doing the 3 weeks in May, taking a break, coming back and doing 3 weeks in July when you've had a chance for things to go deeper. You've had a chance to kind of put it to the test in your life and come back with kind of better questions because you've really been sitting in it. So the first week of the first part, Mastering the Fundamentals, we're going to be looking at the basics, the 3 principles: mind, consciousness, and thought, what they are to you, how you can begin to see them, even though they're formless, they're invisible. You can't actually see them, but you can start to sense them. You can start to see how they're always in play, like gravity, electricity, and magnetism. You can't actually see them, but they underpin the way our physical world works. And the 3 principles of mind, consciousness, and thought underpin our spiritual reality and our personal psychological reality. In the second week, we're going to look at what I call the inside out understanding, which is sort of one step down from the 3 principles. It's how it actually shows up in our world, how these 3 constants show up in our day-to-day experience of life. And I sometimes sum up the inside out understanding as we're living in the feeling or experience of our thinking, not the experience or feeling of our circumstances. But lately I've been talking about it a little bit more in two ways. And one way is to point out that everything comes from nothing. That at the heart of every form that we can experience in the world, including this form and including our thought forms, is the same invisible energy. The same no thing is at the heart of everything. And we're living in a simulation. We're living in a thought created experience of reality, not an external reality. Now, whether or not there's also an external reality is one of the many things that we'll be exploring. But experientially, we have no direct access to any kind of a separate external reality. And then in the third week, I've called the third week, it's not a theory, which is something Sid Banks used to say a lot. Sid Banks being the Scottish theosopher, philosopher, mystic who first kind of coined the phrase, the three principles, to explain what he'd seen during his Enlightenment experience. And and it's not a theory is really just seeing no, really, 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 really. And how fundamentally different our experience of these three principles and the feeling behind them is when we see the truth of them, as opposed to treating them like a set of good ideas or even a philosophy for how to live. Now, at the end of those 3 weeks, most people have a pretty cool experience. They're usually much more settled than they were when they start. They're usually feeling a lot of peace and sometimes a lot of enthusiasm and inspiration for life. And sometimes some really cool things happen in their work, some really cool things happen with their health, some really cool things happen in their relationships and across the board. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to take about 5, 6 weeks after the first part before we reconvene at the beginning of July. And again, Monday to Friday, 3 weeks, we're going to get together and we're going to go deeper. And in the first week, we're going to talk about who are you really? Hint, you're not your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not anything that you have or anything that you can experience. You are that which experiences. You are that which thinks. And we're going to talk about how when we think we are the body and its collection of thoughts and experiences, the world is a pretty scary place. But when we wake up to this larger, vaster, deeper reality of who we are, our experience of the personal self becomes a lot more compassionate, a lot kinder, and a lot gentler. Then in our second week together, we're going to explore what I call the world of deeper feelings. So you're, I'm sure, familiar with your emotional life and happy, sad, angry, fearful, loving, and all the sort of ups and downs, what I call the emotional roller coaster. But you're also probably familiar that even while all those emotions are going on, is a kind of an underlying sense of peace, of quiet, and of well-being, which we don't notice much of the time because there's so much going on in the roller coaster and in the body. But we're going to really spend time in that second week going deep into that world of deeper feelings so that we actually experience them more of the time, not just intellectually. Oh, yes, there's a world of deeper feelings and it sounds wonderful. We're actually going to feel more compassion. We're going to feel more love. We're going to feel more gratitude. We're going to feel more spaciousness, more of the quiet that a lot of people associate with the practice of meditation, more of the stillness at the heart of who we are. In our final week together, I'm calling it Changing the World because we're going to explore how, in a very real sense, When we begin to wake up to who and what we really are, the world around us begins to change. Sid Banks talked about how if 100 people woke up to this, woke up to the higher consciousness of who we are, then that alone would change the evolution of the planet. Elsie Spittle, another teacher in the Three Principles, says, we make a difference to the whole because we are the whole. And during our final week together, we're going to kind of put it all together and look at how what you see and the changes you experience in your life make a positive contribution to the well-being of the planet. I hope you'll come and join us and be a part of what I hope, I expect, I look forward to being a game-changing and beautiful 6 weeks together. But also knowing how these programs tend to go, I think we're going to have a lot of fun as well. So if this is for you, you can click on the link to join us. Until then, have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.